Greetings, everyone. MK Mueller here, the author of 8 to Great. Glad to be talking with you today about a very simple formula for a very important issue, and that's how to make the best decisions every time. Today we are going to talk about lots of stuff. First of all, we're going to talk about when to stop making decisions for your kids. At what age is it best to just teach a formula and stop making decisions for your kids? It's very clear. Next one is the love versus fear equation that maybe you've sort of been aware of, but I'm going to heighten your awareness about that one. Then I'm going to teach you that formula, but then you got to stay tuned for the two amazing stories. One is how this changed a college student's life, and the other is how it changed my career. I have been an international speaker now for about 20 years, but back when I was a local speaker and had never spoken outside of Omaha, Nebraska, this formula helped me become a national speaker overnight. So again, stay tuned for all that good stuff, and let's get growing. All right, first of all, as parents, we love to help our kids make decisions, but is that really the most empowering thing to do as children age and through adolescence? And so my formula is actually quite early, and that is as soon as they reach middle school, it's time to teach them the formula instead of making the decision for them. And then by the time they get into high school, it's just automatic because there are so many literally life-changing / life-threatening decisions they can be making actually in middle and high school. And so you don't want them to have to run to you, because there'll be a time when they won't be running to you. And you want that formula to be solidified in their psyche. So we'll talk about that in just a second. Secondly, let's talk about love versus fear. You might think that the opposite of love is hatred. Not so. Love is the opposite of fear. And so once we move out of fear, what does it say in a lot of the ancient scriptures? It says perfect love casts out fear, right? So when we move into decision making that is loving based, loving to yourself as well as to others, the way to do that is to move out of fear. Make sense? Sure it does. So again, we want to make the best decision every time. What if there was a one sentence, one question formula that worked every time for the best decision making? Been using it now for about 20 years. It's never let me down. And we have, as you know, over 4,000 certified trainers in 8 to Great, and over 400,000 8 to Great readers who have learned this formula, and never have I gotten an email saying, oh, by the way, the formula doesn't work. But thousands of times I've gotten emails saying, thank you for the decision-making formula. It changed my life, right? Now, it's not that it doesn't require something of us. Once you learn the formula, it requires one more thing, and that is courage. You know where the word courage comes from? The French word cœur, the heart. Again, how to make a decision from the heart. It's not that it's going to necessarily argue with the head version of the decision. But if there's a clear head decision, right? Do you do right or wrong? Well, hello. Right. If there's a clear head decision of this is safe and this is unsafe, that's a head decision. Those aren't the hard ones. Those aren't the ones you need a formula for. You want a formula for the tough decisions. And I'm going to give you 2 examples at the end of this video of 2 decisions. One that was made by the college student, one that was made by me, that were tough decisions. They required courage from both of us. And again, the reward, woo! Richly rewarding, to say the least. All right, so are you ready? I think it's time for a drum roll. The formula for making the best decision every time is to simply ask yourself one question. If I had no fear, what would I do? Can't be that simple. Oh, it is. Let's say it again. If I had no fear, what would I do? You know how we spell fear, right? False evidence appearing real. Yeah. So once we acknowledge, well, wait a minute. If I had no fear, I would, okay. So one woman said, I want to talk to my sister-in-law about her drinking, but pause. I just let her pause for a while. And I said, yes. And she said, well, I'm afraid she'll be mad at me. And I said, if you weren't afraid that she'd be mad at you, what would you do? Oh, I talked with her. Okay. What have you got to lose? If I had no fear, what would I do? All right. So those stories that I promised you. First of all, about the college students. So I love to coach youngins, and I have a wonderful nephew who is off to college, who calls me every so often to get some coaching. And this one was, hey, MK, I just called you because I've got this exciting opportunity. And I said, yes. And he said, I've been working on this internship all summer, and now they just came to me, this is the beginning of August, saying, hey, would you skip senior year and we'll just hang on to, or excuse me, no, it was only the first semester of senior year because you're on such a roll, you're doing such great work for us. We'd like to keep you just for that first semester. So it'll just delay your senior year one semester, we'll pay you this much, we'll help you this way, all the things they were going to do. And he was very excited about all the perks. And he said, so I don't know what to do. And I said, maybe you forgot that I'm the aunt that teaches formulas rather than giving advice. What does advice do? Advice is going to go one of two ways, guys. Advice is either, oh, she was right, she's the one with all the wisdom, which is not very empowering for the individual. Or, you're wrong, and then they've got someone to blame, which is, again, not very empowering for the individual. 8 to Great is an empowerment process. It's how to take back our power, hold on to our power, and allow others to have their power. So what we do not need to do is become the powerful one in a young person's life. So he said, oh, I remember I read the book. Yeah, if I had no fear, what would I do? And I said, well, what's the answer? Well, but they're going to give me all this stuff. Do you hear that he's arguing? But he's not arguing with me. I didn't say anything. He's arguing with himself. He's arguing with his left brain. Well, here's the deal, guys. The left brain can never be happy. Only the right brain can be happy. So if you want to choose the most loving decision that's going to make you the happiest overall, if I had no fear, what would I do? We'll get you there. He did decide to turn down all the lovely perks because he really wanted to graduate with his buddies. He was very active in his fraternity. He went back and never regretted that decision because, oh my gosh, he had a magical senior year. And there he was walking down that graduation aisle with all of his wonderful friends and classmates. So that was one example of how this worked. Well, now let me give you mine, because it was big. So I'd never spoken outside of Omaha, but I had a dream of becoming a national speaker. And one day I even added Hawaii to my dream board. I said, yeah, wouldn't it be fun to speak in Hawaii? Yeah, that'd be fun. Well, shortly after that, a gentleman by the name of Dr. John Rosemond came to Omaha. Now, I was still am, a huge fan of John's. He teaches parents to get a life, right? And stop living through their kids. Oh, well, if you are successful, then I'll be happy. So I loved hearing what he said because, again, he's all about empowerment. At the time, I think he was in about 250 newspapers with his column, his parenting column every week. So, big deal, John Roseman. And I went to a school that was hosting his talk in the Omaha area where I lived at the time. And as I got out of the car, I heard this thought. And that's why I have to say I heard this thought, because I don't think I would have ever thought it. But the thought was, John Roseman needs you. John Roseman needs me? And I did what everybody does with their intuitive thoughts. I, dismissed it. But if you've seen Field of Dreams, if you build it, he will come. What happens when you dismiss an intuitive thought is it comes right back. Not too many times, but at least one more time. And so sure enough, as I put my hand on the doorknob of that building, the thought, John Roseman needs you, the exact same words went through my mind. Well, there he was signing books at a table, and I said, MK, if you had no fear, what would you do? There it was. This was the formula I'd been teaching to thousands of people every month. So did I believe the 8 to Great process? Did I live the 8 to Great process? Was I willing to act on the 8 to Great process? So I walked up to him and I said, Dr. Roseman, could I speak with you just a few minutes after your talk tonight? And he said, there's no one here right now. We can talk now. I said, my name is MK Mueller, and I am a speaker, and I teach folks how to get a life. You tell parents to get a life and stop living through their kids, and I kind of teach them the process for how to get a life. And I mean, I don't know if you ever bring other people into your company, but I had this thought that John Roseman needs you, and I had no idea what that meant. He looked at me for a second. He had felt my good, firm handshake. I was looking him in the eye. I seemed to have some confidence in myself and in my decision-making process. And he said, let's go out for a drink afterwards, or coffee, or whatever we had. And so we went out that evening, and by the end of the evening, John Roseman had offered me a speaking contract to join his company, having never seen me speak. And the first place John Roseman sent me was to Hawaii. Now, there's more to the incredible Hawaii story, which I'll tell some other time, but that's the amazing power of this formula. If I had no fear, what would I do? So let me tell you that starting this YouTube channel was a risk. And I wanted to do it, but I'm not very technological. And I said, and I asked myself the question, MK, if you had no fear, what would you do? What's the worst thing that could happen? Literally, what's the worst thing that can happen? Nobody watches, but that's not happening. You're watching right now, and I so appreciate it. And if you would do me a huge favor and subscribe, because that helps us get the word out. And that's really what this is about. I've published all my books. I've done my TEDx talk. What I want to do now is get this information into the hands of millions of people, because it has changed so many lives. And it's so simple, isn't it? It's so simple. So if you have time, we also love comments to hear what you thought, or if this is something you're using in your life and how it's working. And remember, we are available for keynotes, whatever you need, one-on-one coaching, or even to train you to become an 8 to Great life coach and join our 4,000 coaches around the world. That's all for now. Thanks so much. Until next time.